AI sucks, it generates garbage code, it's unreadable, unmaintainable, best of luck to you if you've vibe coded your app. Do you think human developers are obsolete then?
Not yet, but maybe in like 5 years.
It is right. We need to be excited about this. We need to talk about this. We can't lose sight. Where are we actually delivering the value? That should be the bottom line.
Don't ever consider your profession like a meal ticket or anything like that. You have skills that you can apply to problems.
People are writing way more now because of ChatGPT.
Are they writing or?
but that's what I'm saying.
This is the first time the world has seen All right, so I want to talk about the elephant in the room, the conversation everybody's having, AI generated code. I mean, we have a software development agency. We're seeing AI generated code everywhere. I want to, where do you guys see it working? Where is it not working? It's the episode of the day.
Yeah. I mean, if you're not using the tool, you're backsliding at this point. Like, you're way beyond the curve. I think if you're ignoring it, you do so at your own peril. I think defining yourself as, I think you and I have talked about this before, Austin, defining yourself as like, I'm a front-end developer, or I'm like a JavaScript developer, or I write Python code or something like that. That's just kind of like asking for obsolescence, right?
Obsolescence?
Obsolescence? Obsolescence? You're not going to make it. Yeah. The point is, you're not going to make it. No, but if you attach yourself too much to frameworks, I think that's a pretty ripe place for you to become made obsolete.
You think human developers are obsolete then?
Not yet, but maybe in like 5 years.
What about on the product side, design side?
I think, so again, it goes back to tools, right? If you are technically, if you define yourself based on your technicality, then you're going to be obsolete. Like if you think of someone that knows a complex piece of software or process and they can execute on it. Let's take, say, we take a 3D modeler animator, right? They know how to use these 3D programs. They know exactly what buttons to press. They know how to generate things. Those people are in trouble. But the people that have creative vision, they can think through, they can look at the bigger picture. The tools don't matter, right? They go beyond the tools. They can create things. Those are the people that are going to thrive because AI powers them, right? It's like a lever for them. It's like a force multiplier. So I think it's the same thing. What I'll say from like the code perspective is it democratizes programming or coding for a larger population, right? You see a lot more people that are like, you see PMs, you see designers, you see all of these people that would never really touch code, like starting to play with it because it's easier. Like it's more like you can chat with AI, generate some code, and it's really cool to see you yourself generating this stuff. Yeah, I mean, what I'll say is like you just have to be constantly experimenting with this stuff. Like if you don't, like to Micah's point, you're going to be obsolete.
So where does it go to production, or is it a prototyping tool?
For me, it's a prototyping tool. I still believe that there is value in knowing, in having foundational knowledge about programming. Like I know myself, like I got into this dead end where I was experimenting with stuff that I had no business experimenting with, right? I was working with Cloudflare workers. I was working at NoSQL databases, stuff that I've never touched, right? And I started getting into it. It's like, this is getting into like some pretty hairy territory, right? So, but in a way, it's a good thing, right? Because it opens you up to all this sort of knowledge. But you cannot trust people like me to put stuff into prod.
I'm just glad people who aren't developers can actually talk about Cloudflare workers and NoSQL. Like, I feel seen finally. Like, I talked to my wife about this. She's like, "What are you talking about?"
NoSQL. What is it? Why wouldn't you SQL?
But I think the thing though that's interesting is exactly what you said, which I think it could be used for production. But the interesting feedback loop that happens is, when you're using AI, it actually forces you either through your interaction with it or being ready to go for production, right? Like, it forces you to have good software engineering habits. Like,
does it? I think it makes you have bad software engineering habits.
I think you can be a bad software engineer just no matter what. But I think the thing is that good software engineers learn very quickly that AI is going to rewrite this component.
Yeah.
So I need to commit early and often. How many times have we said that where folks just don't, right?
Yeah.
So it really does shore up those kind of muscles, but it's not going to do it for you automatically, right? So
Not yet.
yeah, not yet.
I think there's also a compression of roles. Like, software or coding is becoming democratized. I can speak to it from like a design perspective. When I started off in the field, we used to have UX researchers, information architects, interaction designers, visual designers. These are all separate, dedicated disciplines, right? Now we have a product designer that's expected to do all of it. I mean, we still have researchers, right? But like you're compressing. We've seen the compression of the design field. I think we're going to see a compression of technological roles as a whole. So if there's a person that understands the business and understands how software provides that value and can prompt the AI to generate some piece of software to deliver that value, like you could have a PM, engineer, and designer all rolled into one, right? Like you could have that role. It could be something new that could be defined in the future.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's the power is being able to understand the domain and the context, and so there is a lot more advocacy for like owning your product, not the code so much. But the more it's like able to generate, the more you're able to lean on the assistant. You're actually providing all of the guidelines and guardrails for that thing. Right. And so if you know a domain super well, you're going to go very, very, very fast with these tools.
Yeah.
If you don't know the domain, you're going to, try and vibe code your way through the next Call of Duty or something.
Yeah.
Like you might not do a great job with that.
I'm trying to think like how to articulate how I feel about this, because I've never seen such a fundamental, and I truly mean fundamental shift in our working style and the tools provided to us. Maybe, at the invention of a compiler and like compiled languages was the last time something changed like this for software development.
Yeah.
These like every language we use, Python, Ruby, Java, whatever, they're all designed around the user experience, and the user is the coder, right? They're human tools given to people so that they can reason about large, complex systems. All the patterns we have, object-oriented programming, solid principles, all that stuff, they're human problems. They're patterns applied to a human problem. And as soon as like AI starts really getting good at this, like the human doesn't need to write the code anymore. I truly don't think so. But we will have to figure out ways to instruct it appropriately, to instruct AI to do things, to coax it into, understanding what we do. English is, language is naturally imprecise, and programming languages are inherently precise. Like they're supposed to be precise, and so there's some miss there. But like over the last, I don't know, 2 decades, 3 decades, what was the job of an engineering manager or senior engineer? It was to get the cheapest tokens, tokens being like small bits of code in this case, the cheapest tokens the fast enough. And the way they did that before was like outsource to India and the Ukraine, or go down to Latin America. So you were labor arbitraging. Now for code, and we were using offshore to generate code.
Yeah.
Now we're using AI to generate code. It feels like the same thing, but we can get even more people have access to it, because I don't need a dev shop, overseas that has, 5,000 people in it. I can just prompt ChatGPT at $20 a month and get similar output. I will say, and maybe the next point, like you use the word vibe coding, and I have I think it's like, I have like 2 really conflicting reactions to that. Like, sure. I'm building that, like my kid's daycare teacher has wanted a website, so I was like able to, like on the flight to Florida, I was able to vibe code myself a website for her, and it's really cute and cool. And I thought that was awesome, and that could go to production. But I cannot imagine, or I'm curious what we do when it comes to using software or using AI to develop software in like high scale production systems where they don't fit into a context window, where they aren't just a Next.js deployed to Versal or something like that.
I mean, I think that's also where the domain comes in, right? Like, it's easy to replicate a landing page with the tool because it's very predictable. Like, the design patterns are very predictable, right? What I'm excited about are the new patterns and abstractions that will come from this. So, like, what are the changes in kind of tried and true UX, for example, or like, what are the changes in tried and true design patterns for microservices talking to a massive database? I don't know. Like, it might not even exist anymore. Who knows, right? I don't know. I'm curious what you think from that perspective, Shahed.
Yeah, this is all uncharted territory, right? And it's hard to predict like what's going to come out of it, but we know for sure like so Austin, you talked about the UX of a coder, right? Like you have all these programming languages, but then you also had like a similar thought some time ago about abstraction. We're climbing up the abstraction ladder, right? We don't need to deal with machine learning
Machine language.
machine
code.
language,
Yeah.
yeah, machine language anymore, right? So we talk in these high level programming languages. What is to say that we keep climbing that abstraction ladder? The thing is, like for humans, like that fundamental knowledge is still extremely valuable. Like understanding the psychology of people and understanding the domain, understanding the context, those are still valuable skills. I think all of this talk around AI, vibe coding, and all the technology, I mean, they just enable us to deliver better outcomes to people. But like that should be the base for us. I think it is right. We need to be excited about this. We need to talk about this. It's definitely valuable, but we can't lose sight of the fact that where are we actually delivering the value? That should be the bottom line.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, like vibe coding, awesome. So like stages of building apps with AI. Start by the proof of concept with AI, and it's like there is nothing like the dopamine hit, the serotonin rush of like literal code and app forming in front of me in matters of seconds and minutes versus, even, I've written a lot of code. I can develop a website pretty fast, but it's like you're still futzing with stuff a lot more than like coding with language. Then you have like kind of the doom loops of AI where like you're like move the button and it's like, okay, I'll change your background color, and you're like, no, move the button, and it's like, oh, you meant to change the hero image? Oh no. It's like you get into this fight with it, and so you have this like this frustration of a frustration that forms around needing to change a system. So you're not generating it, but you're changing it. And then finally, I think there's like despair that hits a developer when they realize that integration is very difficult.
Yeah.
And like, how do I integrate in production enterprise systems, or even non-enterprise, like mid-market, high-grade software systems have been around for a long time. The complexity of those systems is their integration points. It's not writing new code. I don't know how much new code I write. It's almost always changing systems. We had a whole episode about rewriting legacy systems or refactoring them. And like, I think that AI is really well positioned in the front end of software. And I think there's now a methodology. There is a methodology that is being established that is similar to extreme programming or agile, that isn't just tools, but it's tools mixed with communication, mixed with coding styles, mixed with team organization, that is AI-driven development. Like, how do we use AI to drive the development of our teams, but not generate all the code we're writing?
I don't know. I think it's also really important to call out that for the 20 or so years I've been doing this, I think I've been told probably in a 2 to 5 year time frame, like on the nose, every 2 years to 5 years, you're going to be obsolete. I started my career like racking and stacking servers, right?
Yeah.
And if I was like, oh, cool, there's this thing called AWS, I'm never going to touch it. I don't know. I might still have a job racking and stacking servers, right? But the whole thing of when I mentor folks into this profession, I tell them that your goal is to continually learn and apply these new things, because being made obsolete is just kind of the name of the game. And so you've got to innovate. You've got to move forward.
If you're a technologist, I mean, that's part of the game. Like, you have to keep learning. You have to keep evolving. I started my career designing Flash websites,
Nice.
like an action script, right? And then I went
Newgrounds.
not Newgrounds,
Okay.
but I had this really cool 3D animation that like with hover effects you would have like, so I modeled it in Rhino, which is a 3D modeling application, put it into Flash, and then had action
Yeah.
script to like do the whole thing. I mean, nobody uses any of those technologies anymore.
Right.
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 So
Or they might be with a lot of those lens flares. Remember those lens flares and everything?
oh yeah.
I mean, there is something to be said for some place of older technology. I think during the pandemic, what was it, like COBOL programmers were like really in high demand.
Yeah.
In somebody's, I haven't never touched COBOL, right? But with these new innovations, you have access to those things. Like
Yep.
AI can help you modernize that stack or work with it, right?
We've talked about technologists. You use the word technologist. You're like constant learner. I think it's there's a lot of people who entered into software development because it is a high-paying vocation.
Yep.
They are not technologists. They went to a code camp. They spent 20 grand on it. They got placed into a product company somewhere, and they know Python or Rails, and they learned one skill. Like, where do they go? Like, I think you're both right. Like, if you're a constant learner, the world is your oyster, kind of no matter what the change. But like, there are a bunch of people here who are joined technology as a vocation, and the world needed all these developers and still does, right? Like,
Right.
that's why the code camps were successful. Where do they go? What do they do?
I mean, the vocation might just fundamentally change as far as where they can add value. But again, I had a good friend. I remember I was entertaining this idea many years ago that I wanted to go to law school, and he's like, "Why do you want to go to law school?" I'm like, "Well, it's a meal ticket. Like I can pay bills with it." He's like, "No, you can't. It's not gonna happen, right? Like, don't ever consider your profession like a meal ticket or anything like that. You have skills that you can apply to problems. Your skills are going to have to change. If you get into tech, you're signing up for the fact that those skills are going to change so rapidly
Right.
that you're going to have to keep up. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the optimist in me tells me that the people that went to boot camp and got those skills, they had agency in the first place to be able to take that up, right?
Sure.
Like they recognize something and they're like, okay, like even if it's just to make more money, they're like, okay, I need these skills to make more money. I can do that. So I would think they would recognize what's coming down the line with the AI and stuff, and they would be able to pivot. Yeah, that would be my kind of take
so
on
you-
that.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with taking a vocation to make more money, though. Like,
No, I don't
I'm
think-
not bagging that.
I don't think so. I don't think so either. I think it's awesome, and I always love like people who come out of coding boot camps and stuff like that because they clearly had they didn't just kind of follow the like through college get comp sci do that kind of thing. They
Right.
had they were a nurse or they were a plumber or they were an EMT or a firefighter, and they went to coding boot camp because they saw a better future for them and their families if they learned a hard skill. But when that hard skill gets rapidly taken away, like, or is it like, I think it is. I think the hard skill like that, the labor of software is going to change. I don't think like the technologist portion, the architect portion is going to change as quickly, but I do think that like the tens of thousands, if not millions of people that exist in this world who are just there to write software. They're blue collar, labor. We create software factories all over this world. And those factories are getting automated by AI.
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely.
So all this is cool. I really like the idea. I'm really excited by AI. I'm a technologist. Of course you two are as well. So, we're always like on our computers futzing around with new AI tools, generating videos, generating websites, games, all that kind of stuff. Our customers, the biggest ask we've been getting right now are two things. One is, how do I not hire another dev, but increase my productivity?
Right.
And two, how do I integrate artificial intelligence as features into my product? So I want to talk about the first one mostly, not the second one, because this second one is it's a product feature, right? So there's, you learn the tool, you learn the framework, move on. The first one though is really interesting because that's a change management problem for a VP of engineering. Like, how do I get my teams working with AI? And especially if they're, are people resistant? What are you seeing? How do you get people excited?
Yeah, I think I don't know. It's that initial resistance is probably existential dread. So the best way to master something is to kind of face it head on and mess around with it. Like, even if you're really skeptical about its abilities, right? Yeah. I think you download something like Cursor or Windsurf, fire it up, and just poke holes at it. Like, you can be as skeptical as you want, but don't be casting stones outside across the street. Like, right. Get in the mix. Like, you know what I mean? Start using the tool. See what it's really good at, what it's really bad at. Engineers are notorious. We love to game things. We love to break things. I suggest you break it. Find five or six different ways to break it, and it might surprise you. It'll change your workflow for sure.
Yeah, I'm going to talk from like the design perspective, because there is something to be said about optimizing on the design side as well, like how to use upskill designers. And this goes back to like that bootcamp comment that you had. And it's unfortunate that in recent times, boot camps have gotten such a bad rap, because if you have these designers come out of boot camps and you look at their portfolios, you look at their case studies, and they all just look the same. Even the process is the same. They were sold a series of tools, and not even tools, a series of frameworks that you can apply to any situation, right? But design is not that simple. Like, it's highly contextual. And and this is actually really bad, but at one place we automatically rejected anyone that had a bootcamp degree. So it was just so it's tough. It's tough out there. Look, because one, design is, or technology in general, is going through this tech recession. Companies are holding back, trying to understand how AI is going to affect everything. But at the same time, you also have like this flood of designers that are trying to understand, like, how is this going to affect me? How is it going to affect my career? How is it going to affect my skill set, right? So there's a bit around upskilling from the design side, but then there's also companies looking to understand how they can leverage AI to make their people more efficient, right? So it's like a challenge from both sides. I mean, the best answer to that is what you just said. Play around with it. Just get into it. Like, see what works, what's possible. Nobody has the answers right now. Like, things are changing so rapidly. Like, the best thing you can do is just to stay on top of everything that's coming out.
Yeah, that's the opportunity. Capitalize on the fact that we haven't figured it out yet.
I do think that, like, the more powerful the AI coding assistant and probably design assistant that you would have, the better the engineer needs to be to use it.
Yeah.
Like, there are these like really, really simple ones, like V0 or Replit or whatever on the internet, and they're great. They can generate something, like that. But you get into more powerful AI coding tools like Claude Code, or, really using Cursor to its fullest potential, or Windsurf to its fullest potential, or Klein. Like, if you're not a coder, and maybe this will change, and I don't want to make like a hard line here, but like for now and for what I see as the foreseeable future, if you start using those tools and you don't know how to write software, it's like, telling someone who's never built anything, or giving someone who's never built anything in their life, like a set of power tools.
Right.
And like, they're going to like make a lot of mistakes, potentially hurt themselves, and like the furniture they build probably won't even look that good. Mm-hmm. There is like this natural pushback, and it kind of brings us into the next segment, which is, I see all the time from it's so funny. I get this like LinkedIn kind of two sides of the coin. I have a whole bunch of people on my LinkedIn that, like, you scroll past and it's like, AI is the future. I'm going to lean into it super hard. Look at what I generated, built, did. Here's my tips and tricks. And then you get a bunch of other people that are like, AI sucks. It generates garbage code.
Right.
It doesn't have, it's unreadable, unmaintainable. Best of luck to you if you've vibe coded your app. Like, you're going to make, some consulting company is going to make millions of dollars fixing vibe coded, garbage. I've always thought of software as a craft. Always. Like, the way you build it, there is no real answer. It's about the journey of building it. It's about like all the tools. Does it matter that AI generates shit code?
I mean, ultimately, if it's in the hands of a good craftsman, I think your point is well taken. No, it doesn't matter, right? Like, there is a point where you can generate so much that it's overwhelming, right?
Right.
So you have to be able to use and apply that skill of kind of being the editor, right? Don't just zone out, although it's super tempting when you're vibe coding.
Yeah.
Zone out and watch this thing like produce thousands of lines of code. Ruthlessly interrogate what its output, right? And try and understand it, and then you can probably improve upon it.
Yeah. I would say for things like routine tasks, like I never want to center a div on a page ever again. Like I want AI to handle that. Like that kind of stuff, it's just routine. Like every time I had to do a task like that, I would have to go to search it, Stack Overflow, find some code, copy, paste it.
Right.
I mean, that's like, it doesn't take that long, but still, it's a task that I have to do. But AI just automates that away. But that's just one small example. I mean, if we're talking about craft, like the bigger thing, and you use the word editor, which I think is an amazing word, right? Because that is the role of craftspeople in this new world. Is can you edit? Do you have good taste? Do you have good judgment? Right? Those are the skills I think that start to become more valuable.
Totally.
Because, yeah, I mean, there's tons of writing out there. Like people are writing way more now because of ChatGPT. They're just producing.
Are they writing or?
But that's what I'm saying. It's still considered their writing, but it's obviously backed by AI. But it's garbage writing. It's not good writing, right? They're writing a lot more, but it's not good. So the stuff that is good really stands out. Like if you can tell the good writers, you can tell people that are creating. There's this article, I'm forgetting the name of it, but it's the author of it. But basically, the author said, create something heavy, right? You're creating like something that lasts. So when we go on LinkedIn or X or whatnot, where we just look at stream, we look at all this content that's just being created for the sake of it, but there's nothing really heavy about it, right? So like, so the heaviness of content of people that actually know the craft, to appreciate craft, sticks out way more.
Yeah, for sure. I like what you said about centering a div.
It is like that stuff is so automatable now,
Yeah.
and it's like little scripts and things too. Like, oh, I want to, pull all the, pull all this data from a kube cluster, and I could kind of like, through a little bit of memory and futzing, I would probably get to a short little bash script or a one-liner, one-liner that could do it. Or I can like, ChatGPT, how do I pull all this from a kube, copy paste, boom, and you're just done. So there is like that type of stuff is incredible. And I think people don't realize, or a lot of time people don't realize that there is like, the more you use AI, the more you realize that you were not using it at all before. Like every day I keep playing with it and I learn more and more about how boundless like its potential is. Where, at first you're just using it to like edit emails, and then, I was showing a friend you could use it for meal planning, and then you could take a photo of your cabinet and say like, can you help me create some recipes based on what I have here? Like she was like, whoa, you can give it a photo? And with code, it's similar. Like you learn as you engage with this stuff, or with software engineering, you learn as you engage with this stuff what it's good at and what it's not. And when we're writing code for productionalized long-term legacy systems, and think like legacy being, no one holds the whole context anymore. AI actually can. In a lot of systems, it can actually hold the context. So dumping a code base, a significant amount of a code base or a whole code base into a large context model like Gemini or something like that, and then I can interrogate that code base like I would a subject matter expert. Where's the networking logic? How are separations and concerns? Can you draw me a domain diagram so I can understand what's going on here? How is auth managed?
That's pretty cool.
And like that accelerates a dev team like crazy. And then generating the code becomes about the same thing. It becomes about the context. And so instead of saying I'm going to generate, a landing page for my kid's daycare, you can say, given this module, this class, this component, why don't we change just these things to do this? There is a few. It's awesome how much the like work we've done builds into the like being productive with AI.
Yeah.
Lean, extreme programming, small stories, tests, testable code, all of those things allow, commit early, often, deploy always, like all that kind of stuff. It's amazing how you get that stuff built into your workflow. And then it doesn't really matter who writes the code or what writes the code, because you don't need to own it. The AI can actually write it. You have the recall, you have the the fallbacks through Git, you have the tests to make sure you don't break anything. I think it's absolutely incredible. And I think the craft becomes using the tools.
Is today's conversation resonating? Make sure to follow the show on X. Just search for /deploy. Look for our logo and stay tuned for conversations like this every other week. All right, let's get back into it.
All right, so I had a friend, and I want to think back, so I had this friend, and he wanted to show me a product demo, and we screen share, and he pulls up this little chatbot he built, and it was built on GPT-2. And I remember GPT-2, I hadn't really played with it. I'd kind of heard about it on Hacker News, and it was okay. I mean, you could talk to it, but it wasn't crazy. And that, I feel like, was 2 or 3 years ago. It wasn't that long ago. Then GPT-3 came out, and ChatGPT came out, and it broke the uncanny valley. You could not tell the difference from generated and ungenerated text anymore. And it was just so approachable, so easy. The chatbot interface, it wasn't an API. I want to break down the launch of that product and how fast the world has changed from the beginning of GPT-3, which I think was kind of the catalyst, to today.
Yeah, I mean, it's really amazing to think that ChatGPT got to 100 million users in 2 months.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Which is completely wild. Most companies take 2 to 5 years to even approach that. Yeah. And these are the startups that are game changing, right? I don't know. Maybe Uber, I think it took them close to 5 years to get anywhere near that number.
Right.
Right. And so, I don't know. Yeah, it was funny though. You said you couldn't tell the difference between generated text and not generated. We still have the M dash.
We do. It's called the ChatGPT dash now.
Exactly. No, it's interesting, but I think it's proved value for people, which is why that adoption is so wide, and it's novel, right? And it solves problems, but it's not without failures, right? I mean, we've been talking about hallucinations the whole time and concerns about security. I don't know. I haven't checked if it knows how many R's are in strawberry still. There's things
it knows
that
how many now.
It does.
Yeah,
Cool. Perfect. I missed that last iteration, right?
It doesn't get blueberry though.
And then I think it's also kind of funny that OpenAI has been criticized. Where's the open in OpenAI, right?
Right.
They're not contributing to open source. We don't know how the model was exactly trained. They're not really showing anything behind the curtain. But yeah, I think that it's a complete game changer, like you said. And I think that alone should maybe reframe some skepticism that people have.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a cultural phenomenon, when it came out, right? It's from a design perspective, it's just so simple. You just have a chat box, you type into it, and you just get a back and forth response. I mean, there's nothing.
It's human.
It's human, but there's nothing groundbreaking about the UX, right? You're chatting with the interface, but it's a computer talking back to you in a natural language. And I remember one of the first conversations that I had. It was funny how quickly things went from excitement to fear. They went, "Oh man, this is so awesome," to "Am I gonna have a job?" It moved really fast from one to the next. And I know, I was talking to some of my friends, and they were just really freaked out by how good this thing was. So I mean, there's two factors here, right? One's the value, it's delivering value immediately to you. You can play with it, immediately ask questions, get answers back in natural language. And then 2 was delight. There's a bit of delight in there. You would never expect this technology to be this good, right? This fast. So, but I think it's just seeped into every facet of our lives now. Everyone kind of knows about, at least has heard about ChatGPT. Even my dad came up to me and he's like, "Hey, you know what? I have this thing that I'm fighting, and instead of hiring a lawyer, I just had ChatGPT come up with a write of a contract for me," right?
Yeah.
Wow.
So like if my parents are using it, then I know that
Right.
that has gone to like a certain that the UX is like really good, right?
Right.
If the adoption is there. But what I would say is it also, and this goes back to the point earlier of it's also diluted a lot of things. Like we talked about Ghibli's and like these action figures and all of that. Like there's so much. Uh, ChatGPT generates a lot of this thing, and it's a good thing. People are experimenting with it. I don't want to knock people for trying it, but also floods our feeds and our conscience with just low quality stuff.
The AI slop.
Slop. There you go. Yep.
AI slop is
Yep.
real, right? Yeah, for sure. I think there's a interesting problem that a product of that scale and the way they pulled it off so masterfully, I think it's almost deceptive that people think it's easy to do. Right? Like it works so stinking well, right? That people are like, oh wow, that's really cool. Now that I have this tool, I can just integrate it into my product, right? I can do the same thing. I'll just throw a ChatGPT or an OpenAI call in my product. We'll get the same outstanding success. There's some, I don't know, there's some danger there. I think a friend of mine calls it, people are moving away from a minimum viable product to a most loved product.
Yeah.
Right. And so a lot of folks are in this kind of decision or execution paralysis because they feel, and they kind of are directly competing with ChatGPT in a way, if they're trying to like into that, in that space. Right.
Yeah. I mean, what I'll say to that point is companies that try to tack on AI
Right.
without really understanding what the value add is are not setting themselves up for success. The best use cases of AI I've seen are the ones that are just, they're not obvious. They kind of slide under the radar. Like I'll give you an example of like one of the best ones I've seen is so there's a user testing platform called Maze, and it's unmoderated testing. So you have a prototype and you could set it to a bunch of users and they kind of complete it on their own time. Before they get to the prototype, they have to answer a few questions. And these questions are generally, you kind of write them up and you can have open-ended answers, but like, again, you're asking the same question over and over again, right? But one thing AI does really well for this testing is based on the answer that you give, it can ask follow-up questions. And that's integrated into the flow. And I thought that was such a genius way of using AI, right? It gives it bridges the gap between unmoderated and moderated testing, right? For this, so for those kind of use cases, I think that's where AI really shines. Not like if you just slap an AI chatbot on your product, you're like, okay, who cares?
Right.
I never had thought about this, but as you were saying, the ChatGPT interface was so good. I think it was so good because it's the first time. I mean, yeah, there were like little chat support boxes that like had bots in them, but they were always like you followed kind of like a phone tree, just
Right.
so it was like a chat tree. I mean, everybody had just gone through COVID. The interface to all of our colleagues was a chat. We talked in Slack, Teams, all that kind of stuff. And now all of a sudden a computer's talking to us in the exact same form. And it's talking to us not through like a phone tree, but it's talking to us like, like another peer. I think it was it blew people's minds. The launch of ChatGPT, I mean, it changed the world. And I think, one of the things that Sam did really well in that launch is I think a lot of people had these things cooking. Like, because too many of them came out too fast afterwards.
Right.
And so a lot of people had these LLMs cooking, but, OpenAI was courageous enough to put an imperfect product out there. And as soon as people saw that, oh my gosh, this imperfect product is still like a massive, it's a massive change to how we're functioning. Everybody else, Google, needed to follow. Amazon has theirs. Everybody, releases something along with it. And so it's impressive. And it really did change everything.
At Focused, we don't chase every shiny new tool. We master the ones that truly help your team. If you're looking for truly strategic guidance, head over to focus.io and reach out to us. We'd love to chat. All right, let's get back into it.
I want to look at some data related to like general sentiment around AI. Shahed, you mentioned it. A lot of people are fearful of their jobs. So I have a little bit of data here. There was a new survey conducted by Corndall that suggests 61% of human workforces believe that AI will take their jobs, or much of their job role by 2033. Findings also show that 38% of 18 to 34-year-olds believe AI will be doing at least 50% of their job within the next 10 years, with 61% stating it will take at least 25% of your job. They took our gerbs.
Yeah, I mean, isn't any seismic technological shift in society going to upend jobs? Like, people used to, I don't know, work a loom to make fabric. Now that's become automated.
Like actually the single most deployed trade in the world at one point was a mechanical loom operator.
Yep.
And it was one of the most high-paying, skilled labor jobs. It looks to me exactly like software engineering.
Yep. We always create new work. We're not bad at that as humans.
It's true. The world has always had more people in it than it did the year before, and we've always had better opportunity for the vast majority of the world than we did the year before. So,
yeah, I think the fears are well founded, and I don't know, technologists are pretty used to this. Kind of being made obsolete or having to change skills or do all those things. I think there's a compassionate way in society to make that change happen. But I think it's here, right? We're not there today per se, but in the next 10 years, things are going to really fundamentally shift. And I think it's up to us to shepherd that in a responsible way. But the thing that people are discounting are what are the new unimagined roles that are going to exist, right? And I'm actually really excited about that potential.
Yeah, I think I'm on the same page with both of you. It's like when one of my earlier resumes used to start with technically proficient. Like that was my starting tagline, right? And that's the part that's getting automated away, and that's the part that's going away, right? Like technically proficient, sure, yeah, it's valuable now. Like knowing how to click certain buttons, knowing where stuff is within knowing how to code something, those are all valuable skills. But if that's being automated away, where do you start proving your value? Like that's the bottom line here is like, how do you make yourself valuable? Like that's a question you need to answer for yourself.
Yeah, and it makes you focus less on the code. And I like what you called out. Like, now we're being beholden on focusing on people and delivering value and products, which frankly we should be doing anyway, right?
Yep, yes.
And the market should select for that anyway, right? So it's just a forcing function for actually probably better products, better processes.
I like the word automation. And I like the mechanical loom thing. I think that this is the first time the world has seen us automate thought work.
Yep.
And there's a bunch of thought work, like white collar workers, people are told go to college, get a degree, learn how to do knowledge work. And there's a lot of knowledge work in this world that is truly labor.
Yeah.
Like I need to do data entry. I need to just write marketing briefs. You're not really doing thought. You're just not doing like physical labor. Tasks, exactly. The Industrial Revolution, the first set of machines were crude, but they were automating physical labor. And at the beginning, they couldn't do it as well as people, but they could maybe do it a little cheaper than people. And then they got to where they could be stronger than a person or reach further than a person or move more than a person. And what we're seeing is the we're seeing like the knowledge labor, like where it was industrial revolution. I don't know what we would call this one, but it's like the Thoughtwork revolution. And like it has a lot of people scared because a lot of people that aren't technologists are tradespeople that exist inside of a place where white collar work is really about tasks that they do, and those tasks are going to get automated. The problem is, and I think a thing to focus on, and I can maybe offer a little bit of a solution, but the solution is crappy, is like when you go from automation of physical labor, the natural place is to push people into higher order like thought work. And that's what we did. We pushed people through degrees and, into offices and cubicles and all that kind of stuff and out of factory floors. Where do they go when the office gets automated?
Right.
And I think the answer actually is like into creativity. We started the episode talking about vibe coding and talking about the ability for some, the compression of roles where you could have an engineer, a product person, and a designer sit in one seat now. There is opportunity now for an individual, or in the near future for an individual, to possess the ability to create, the ability to design, and the ability to plan something that provides real value back. And we don't actually need to value the like physical work of clacking on a keyboard and typing in code. It's actually what that thing did for the world, for a group of people, for a set of users that's valuable. So where do those people go? They become creators.
Ever heard the phrase, nobody gets fired for hiring IBM? It's safe, it's easy, and it often leads to disappointing results. Next week, we unpack why big name consultancies might be the riskiest choice you make, even though they feel the safest.
Remember to respect the craft. Evolution doesn't require chaos, and teams will always beat heroes. Cheers.